everybody. Today, I am going to be talking about how the future of sales and marketing is conversational. So to introduce myself, I am Shannon Donovan. I'm a customer success manager at Drift on the EMEA team. I am American from Boston, but have relocated to the London area within the past year to join our EMEA team there. And I've been at the Drift team for a little more than 4 years now. And then just to introduce Drift a little bit as well, our mission is to make digital buying as frictionless, enjoyable, and human as possible. We're founded by two Latinx co-founders, David Cancel and Elias Torres, back in 2015. We have 500 plus employees across the globe these days, and we have 50,000 customers, again, across the globe. And as of September 2021, we are backed by Vista Equity Partners as well. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an introduction into Drift as a company and me as a person. So for the chat today, we're going to start by looking at the current state of digital buying. Then we'll move into conversational sales and marketing, what that exactly is and how Drift addresses it. Then we'll look at bot building strategy, and I'll share tips for some of the top playbooks that you could run on your website, as well as how to actually optimize bots once you've launched. And then I'll leave you with some resources and our certification programs as well. So to get into it, again, like I said, we'll start with the current state of digital buying. So there's actually a lot of overlap between B2B buying and B2C buying, as well as like social buying and that landscape in general, just because if you think about it, our tendencies and our habits from a social or a consumer environment, how could they not translate over into a business environment? And if you think about where we're at right now with that, you probably recognize some of the big logos here on the screen, but we use chat and instant messaging in almost every aspect of our lives. It's become so ingrained. And we really do, as buyers, as customers, expect that quick level of service, communication, and gratification, right? But the issue is that that same level of instant gratification, instant communication that has come through really strongly in the B2B or B2C and social landscape hasn't quite translated into the B2B environment. So if I think about it, the way that I look at it is that the B2B buying process is actually quite broken. And in the past 2 years, of course, as a result of the pandemic, a lot of businesses were forced to rely on digital as one of the main channels. And I think the past 2 years have only amplified this sentiment further that the B2B buying process really is broken. And I love this graphic because it really does demonstrate just how convoluted this B2B buying process is or can be. And to give you the typical run through of what it looks like, if I was interested in buying a piece of software for my business, let's say, I would go on to a website, I would poke around a bit, potentially fill out a demo request form, let's say. I might wait anywhere from a couple minutes to a couple hours to a couple days to hear back from somebody at this company as a result of my form fill, as a result of my hand raise. Then I might get a phone call from them. I might get an email. Who knows if I'm around to answer that phone call? Who knows if I have the time to answer that email, right? And then from there, I just get poured into a sequence or a cadence of emails, calls, LinkedIn messages that might come my way. But the reality is my intent was likely highest when I was actually on the website itself. Maybe in the time that this business has taken to get back to me and to catch me up as a lead, maybe I've turned to competition. Maybe I've lost interest. Maybe I've become busy with other projects, right? So again, this big graphic and network here just demonstrates how convoluted and how tedious this process really can be for buyers who are simply trying to execute on actually buying on behalf of their business. And then this is the other thing. As much as we would like to think that every visitor that we work so hard to get to our website is actually going to fill out that form and raise their hand and want to get in contact, the reality is that the percentage of visitors who are willing to fill out a form is rapidly decreasing. And this is always a shocking stat every time I look at it, but the percentage of visitors that are not willing to fill out a form in today's day and age is 81%. So think about that. All the traffic that you're spending so much time and effort and money to drive to your website where you have this form, they're not actually super keen to fill it out, which is, again, such a miss. So it tells us that that return from the marketing spend is inconsistent. To throw a couple other stats your way, we also see that 75% of buyers prefer digital, self-serve, or remote human interactions. And again, that's as a result of like buyers taking power into their own hands. And then the last one here from PwC is that 59% of customers stop doing business with you after a single bad experience. So it really shows that, when they're hitting the website, that's your front door. That is the welcome into your business. It tells people who you are, and it dictates how the rest of their experience with you is going to go. So if that first interaction is subpar, feels clunky, it's not a good indicator for the rest of their experience with your brand. And of course, we know cost to acquire customers is really high. So we want to make sure that every time we have a chance to be in front of them and to present brand and what you can show as an experience, it really needs to be top notch. And then one more stat for you here, which is again shocking. 99% of site visitors never actually even make it to sales. And again, part of that is likely due to disqualification and visitors not being relevant. But in the grand scheme of things, there are missed leads in this 99%. There absolutely are. So again, it's just about giving yourselves every opportunity to actually engage with qualified hand raisers that want to get in touch with you. And just to demonstrate this again with a B2C example, I love telling this little story. And I don't work for OpenTable or have any affiliation, but I just think it's such a good example. In today's day and age, especially coming out of the pandemic, I have reached a point where I don't love to go out to dinner if I don't have a reservation, because I don't want to show up and have to wait, 30, 60, 90 minutes to get a table when I could have just ahead of time said, yep, I'm going to be there at 8 o'clock and walk right in and eat, right? I'm hungry. So again, it has actually gotten to the point where if I go onto a restaurant's website and I don't see an ability to book a reservation or they don't offer them, I am way less likely to actually eat at that restaurant. I will turn to competition. I will turn to other places where I can book in a spot so that I know that my eating there on time is going to be guaranteed. So something like OpenTable that facilitates the ability to book in those reservations. For me, if I was a restaurant, that's something that I could never not have. Because again, it just allows you to capture so much more of the audience that is potentially interested in you that you might lose otherwise because you didn't have that option for how that buyer chose to get in touch with you. So of course that's B2C example, but we're looking to pull those same threads through into B2B buying, which is what I'll speak a little bit more about now. So of course that's the problem, and we are looking to fill that gap. So this is where conversational marketing and sales fits in. And again, really the mission here is to remove that friction that I described and bring the human elements back to the website. So I'll throw out a definition first to start here. Conversational marketing and sales is a customer-centric and dialogue-driven approach in service of accelerating revenue. So it's kind of what it is and why it actually is helpful to you and why it's worth implementing within your business. And I also love the customer-centric piece as well. Like again, those stats earlier demonstrated that really the power is with the buyer these days. So it's only in your service as a business to put the customer at the center of the interactions that you design. So as we apply conversational sales and marketing, we talk about building chat experiences on your websites. So again, that's the bot-led component. We also might use the word playbook. I might say that a couple times here. Playbook is just the word that we use to define the back end of how the bot is created. So essentially the same thing there. And before we look at the specific types of bots themselves, I want to show you a couple frameworks that help put into context why we recommend the types of bots that we do and the types of transformations that we look to go through with our customers when they're actually building these bots and building their strategy. So this first graphic here is the revenue acceleration model. It has 5 stages. And most customers, for a while will sit in stages 1 to 3 as they're starting to roll out conversational sales and marketing. So I'll describe what these couple are. Stage 1 is really just about like, hey, let's get bots live on your website, the foundational ones, and I'll talk about a couple of those as we go through here. Get those foundational bots live and see how visitors start responding to them so that we can learn from the conversations and then optimize our bot flows and optimize our qualification paths or our customer facing paths from there. Then as we move into stage 2, it's a little bit more about understanding what your ICP is and creating bots that target a little bit lower within the funnel. And bots that are a little bit more strategic and incorporated into your campaign strategy. Because really, when Drift is deployed at its best, it should act as an accelerant for everything else that you have going on within your business. So when we talk about phase 2, and I'll share a couple of playbooks that fall within phase 2, it could be paid ad converter bots that specifically address traffic that you've paid to have come to the website, right? That's part of a larger campaign strategy. It could be target account bots for target accounts that, again, you're actively driving to the website, perhaps through outbound SDR outreach and whatnot. And then as we get into stages 3, 4, and 5, it's actually about rolling Drift into other parts of the organization that aren't just marketing or front lines, SDR or sales. It's about how can Drift actually work with your AE team, perhaps, to help them accelerate the deals that they have open as those accounts are coming back to the websites. And then as we look at 4 and 5, it's even more so going into the go-to-market team with respect to CSMs or account managers or support teams. And again, how your entire customer-facing org can be benefited by having a conversational aspect present. So like I said, I'll focus on bots that live within stages 1 and 2, just kind of as an entry level here, but the whole revenue acceleration model demonstrates that transformation over time. And then the second graphic I'll show you before we look at the bots themselves is the conversational framework of engage, understand, and recommend. And this is the approach that we recommend each customer uses when they are going about building a bot. Because the first question that we actually ask before we get into any content itself is, what type of audience am I addressing with this bot? Who is this for? Where will it be targeted? What have they come from? What source are they coming from? How did they land on the website? All those questions, right? Because of course, as you can imagine, a first-time visitor to the homepage is very different from a returning visitor to the pricing page. So there's all these different ways that we can slice and dice your audience traffic to come up with different bots, different experiences. And you would likely go through this process of thinking and building as you're constructing them. Then we move into engage, which is the hook or the opening line of the bot. Arguably the single most important part, because it determines if we capture the visitor's attention and open the gates to the rest of the conversation that you've worked so hard to build, and we want them to see, and we want them to hit the endpoints that we've created, right? So strong hooks are really critical. Then it becomes about understanding what they're actually looking for, especially in bots that are a bit more generic, like we'll talk about an engage-all playbook, for example, or a catch-all playbook. We might need to understand if they're a current customer, if they are a partner or looking for support. or even, if they're a prospect, that's the ideal path here. So a couple of qualifying questions to understand who they are and what they need. And then it's ultimately about recommending a path, because the bot in its nature is supposed to act as a guide. It is supposed to act as a concierge in a lot of ways, right? So the three major paths, to kind of simplify it here, would be sales, marketing, and support. Sales, of course, we could have outcomes of live chat or booking a meeting, all capabilities that the bot has. Marketing would be more of a nurture play or delivering content, perhaps a video demo, maybe visitors that are keen to learn more but aren't ready to get into the hands of sales. And then lastly, we have support for current customers. Again, it could be chat, or it could be using some of the self-service skills like article lookup or ticket creation. All right, now that we have looked at a couple frameworks, I want to move us into those actual 5 bot plays that I spoke about. So it's the practical application of a lot of the concepts we've been talking about today. And these are 5 bots that you could steal and spin up on your website super easily. So these are 5 of my favorites. I've mentioned a couple of them throughout. First is engage all or catch all. Second is pricing page. Third, skip the form. 4, paid traffic converter. And 5, account-based marketing or ABM bot. So first one is our engage all. As I mentioned, this is for the purpose of catching all visitors across the website. So a lot of times with the customers that I work with, this is the very first bot that we build because it's the most generic experience and it covers the majority of the site at first. Then we look to decrease the amount of traffic that's having a generic experience as we spin up more specialized bots, but this is still really critical for coverage. And it really closely follows that engage, understand, recommend framework that I shared. So it often includes a marketing nurture path, a sales high intent path, and a support path for existing customers, almost acting exactly as a concierge. And then you'll see for each of these couple coming slides, we have an example from other customers here on the side if you want to check out any of the specific copy. Next up is the pricing page bots. This is obviously a really high intent page. If you have a visitor that's hit your pricing page, that's a huge win. We want to make sure that they have a stellar experience and they get all the help that they need from sales. So we recommend using a pricing specific hook, some of which you can see here, hey, what questions can we answer about pricing today? And they often have questions, visitors that come to this page, right? Because pricing can be intricate. It can be sometimes tricky to understand for visitors. So it's really great to offer them a direct line into chatting with an SDR. What better experience than to be browsing a pricing page and have somebody on the other end there actually able to walk you through any questions that you have. And of course, this goes for all of our bots, but during offline hours when the team might not be available for live chat, that's when we can offer a calendar and allow the visitor to automatically book a meeting at the same time as they are going through the conversational experience. Next up, we have skip the form. So this pairs with a page that already has a form on it, right in the name, of course, skip the form bots. But this style of playbook always converts super, super well because it is such an attractive option for visitors that are not keen to fill out the form, right? It goes back to that stat that I mentioned earlier, 81% of visitors are not going to be filling out that form. And this bot opens up saying, hey, want to skip the form and get connected right now, or want to skip the form and book your demo right here instead. Visitors know how tedious that form fill process can be. So again, this is a great option. And it again provides that direct link in with sales for chat or for a meeting booked. Next up, we have the paid traffic converter. I mentioned this one earlier as part of those stage 2 playbooks. So this is to specifically greet any traffic that has come from paid sources. So we can be listening to different UTM parameters, campaign, medium, source, etc. you're spending a ton of money to drive these visitors to the site. And this is our way of making sure that they have a VIP experience. And whatever sparked their interest about, the ad that they saw or whatever search term that they were looking for, we carry that experience through to the website itself. So here are a couple examples of hooks. You clicked on an ad, how fun, or what sparked your interest in insert X product or insert X search term here. You get the idea. And then our very last bot is the ABM bot. This one is all about the VIP treatments, because again, these target accounts that you're driving to the site, it's probably coming through, email or nurture marketing. It's coming through SDR outreach. They might have lists that they're actively trying to drive to the website. And you can almost view them as white whales, right? When these white whales come along, that is a huge deal, and we don't want to let them slip out of our grasp. So these ABM playbooks are designed to be very fast lane oriented, right? You'll see that they're a little bit simpler in nature, and they essentially offer this account a direct line to chat in with me, or we can change the CTA to be a direct line to book a meeting, depending on time of day. But it kind of skips over that heavy qualification that we would apply for an anonymous account, because again, we don't want to put these accounts to the ringer. We want to get them right to their owner. And we can also start to segment different ABM playbooks based on account properties like industry, returning visitors, even opportunity stage, some really powerful stuff for making sure that this message is super relevant for them. And then the other cool thing is, these are of course only 5 use cases, but there are a ton of other typical styles of bots that we see out in the wild. So to name a few for you, we have returning visitors, webinar registration, event promotion, resources, case studies, blog subscription, industry playbook, and persona based. And we can pull this information from cookies within Drift. We also work well with other parts of your tech stack, like your CRM or MAP, and can pull information that we have living there as well. All right. Last bit here on the bot strategy is optimization, because of course it's great to launch these playbooks. It is great to have them live across the site, but Drift and bot strategy in general is not a game of set it and forget it. It really does need that maintenance and that ongoing eyesight into the actual optimization of the bots. So the first thing that I can share with you is our chat funnel and how we think about the different stages of the conversation. So to walk you through each bit here, at the very top, we have bot fires or sends. So this is the number of times that the playbook presents itself to a visitor, followed by the actual conversations themselves. So that's defined as somebody at least clicking into one button or typing one thing into the bot. Then we have leads or emails captured, live chats or meetings held, and then out the bottom, of course, what we're looking for is opportunities influenced, pipeline influenced, close won. So 2 benchmarks to throw out as you're looking at your own chat funnel. From bot fires to conversation started, we typically aim for about 2%. That's our goal. So again, 2% of the visitors who see a bot have the opportunity to start a chat, should start a conversation. And then as we have them in the conversation, we should aim for about 15 to 20% of them to actually identify themselves with an email address. A couple other general tips to throw your way. Number 1 is identify optimization points in the funnel. So again, if you're going through that exercise that we just looked at and you're like, it looks like my hook is only converting at about 1%, that tells us it's time for some optimization. So we can run A/B tests. I'm getting into my 5th point there, but to test out different points in the bot flow to make sure that we're presenting the most optimized version of your conversation. The second here is to use strong, relevant hooks. Like I mentioned before, that is the most important part of the conversation, because if we don't even open the door to the chat, they're never going to see the rest of what you've actually built. And going off of that, number 3 is really good, important to keep in mind, because something funny is, how long the playbook is when you build it on the back end. but the site visitor does not, right? They don't know if there's 2 questions coming their way. They don't know if there's 10. So it's good to limit the qualifying questions that you have, but then also set expectations throughout the bot flow. So before we do our qualification, you can say, hey, I just have 3 quick questions for you before I can book your meeting or before I can route you to a teammate. So it helps keep the conversational experience in check and in expectation for the visitor. All right, so that's the majority of what I have for you today, and I'll leave you with a couple resources. So as I mentioned, we have conversational marketing and conversational sales certifications. Highly recommend taking these. They go into further depth based on what I talked on today. And then one of my very favorite websites, if you Google really good chatbots, very simply named, but this will give you inspiration. It's basically like a museum of the best bots that we've seen out in the wild based on different types of bots that you might be looking to create. And linked here just to our general resources, a couple of which are highlighted across our website. So that's all I've got for you. Thank you so much. Talk to you later.